and the prosecutors are present as well. Let's bring the jury in,
Judge,
please.
before we bring the jury in, can I make one brief record?
Yes, go ahead.
Judge, the people are at this time going to be requesting to recall Roger Erickson for a limited purpose of foundation related to 10090B. The previous information was related to 1090A. This is for foundation for 1090B, which would then be additional, would have additional information from a secondary witness, somewhat related to one of the questions that was at the bench, Judge.
Okay, go ahead. Let's bring the jury in. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Mr. Edson, you may call your next witness.
People recall Roger Erickson.
Sir, I will remind you that you're still under oath, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Sir, are you the Mr. Roger Erickson that just testified before the break here in this case?
I am.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm going to be handing you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 1090B. Sir, go ahead and take a look at People's Exhibit 1090B. Do you recognize that exhibit?
I do.
What is that exhibit?
This is the student report and roster that I would have prepared to meet the requirements of the Colorado Department of Transportation.
Okay, so the June 2012 writing class that was related to Mr. Holmes, were you the instructor of that class?
No.
Did you maintain the records associated with that class and that particular student?
Yes.
Does that include People's Exhibit 1090B?
Yes.
Okay. how many pages are we looking at for People's Exhibit 1090B?
2 pages.
Okay. Look through it thoroughly and see
I'm
if
sorry,
there's-
3 pages.
Okay, did you get a chance to look through all 3 of those pages?
Yes, these
Do-
are, yes, sir.
I also have before you People's Exhibit 1090A that you previously testified to. Do the exhibits contained with People's Exhibit 1090B, do they correspond to the same student, James Holmes, as People's Exhibit 1090A?
Yes,
People's Exhibit 1090B, were those records maintained the same way that you maintain People's Exhibit 1090A?
they would be maintained as normal course of business, but this is a combination of electronic and paper copies that we would maintain.
Okay, explain what the paper copies are versus the electronic copies.
The report itself is this would be a printout of an electronic copy that I would have forwarded to CDOT. Page 2 is a sign-in sheet that would have been maintained only as paper. Page 3 is a liability release that would be maintained only as paper.
But the ultimate individual who maintains all 3 of those documents, whether it's a paper or computerized or what have you, are you that individual?
I am.
Okay. The records in 1090B, are they stored in the same format that you previously testified to in 1090A as far as being computerized?
No.
Explain, please.
These pages 2 and 3 would be maintained only as paper copies in a file folder for that class state.
And who maintains that file folder?
I do.
Are you the only one that maintains that?
Yes.
Are you the custodian of record for that paper copies?
Yes.
Okay. All 3 of the documents contained within People's Exhibit 1090B, were they made and kept in the regular and ordinary course of business?
Yes.
Were they kept by you in the regular and ordinary course of business?
Yes.
When you were participating in the making of those records, were you acting in the regular and ordinary course of your business?
Yes.
Both the computer and the paper copies that you've just described to, both of those were the procedures used for the inputting the documentation were, to the best of your knowledge, are they accurate?
Yes.
The particular records contained within People's Exhibit 1090B, were the entries made within a reasonable time after the actual transaction involved?
Yes.
How do we know that?
The report, I can see the date that I would have put on it when I prepared it is July 3rd, which would be within the 30-day reporting period required by the Colorado Department of Transportation. Page 2, where the students sign in, that would have been done in class at the beginning of each day. Page 3, the liability release would have been completed at the beginning of day 1 before a student's allowed to touch a motorcycle.
The information that is contained within People's Exhibit 1090B, did you have knowledge of the events that are contained within the particular exhibit?
Yes.
What exactly is CDOT, just for the record?
Colorado Department of Transportation.
Is it part of your business to maintain records for purposes of the Colorado Department of Transportation?
Yes.
Does that include the records that we're talking about here in People's Exhibit 1090B?
Yes.
Judge, I would move for admission of People's Exhibit 1090B pursuant to 8036, as well as the People versus Marciano case. Court has previously identified in the record.
And Marciano is M-A-R-C-I-A-N-O. Mr. King, is there any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Should we approach?
Yes, please. Okay, the objection is sustained, but Mr. Edson, you may proceed as we discussed.
Sir, can I have you look at People's Exhibit 1090A? That's the one in front of you there. It's already been admitted. What is the date of the motorcycle riding class that Mr. Holmes was signed up for?
That would be June 23rd, 2012.
Moving back to People's Exhibit 1090B, the first page there, what is that page?
This is, it's labeled Colorado Department of Transportation, Office of Transportation Safety, Most Program Student Report and Roster.
Who created that page?
I did.
How did you create that page?
It would have originated with the information that each student input when they originally registered for a class. I would have downloaded that information into an Excel spreadsheet that then would have generated a report similar to this for the instructors to start their class with. They would have made corrections in pen and pencil and added the information such as the testing scores. Then that document comes back to me, and I go back to that original report that I gave the instructors or emailed to them, and I would have added the additional information that was handwritten on that sheet.
The first page of People's Exhibit 1090B, was information from 1090A used as part of the creation of the first page of 1090B?
Yes.
Explain for the court, please.
Again, I would have taken from the database kept on the server as part of my merchant account. I had a macro built where that information would download into an Excel spreadsheet that would then print on this form. I would then email or hand deliver that form to the instructors before the class.
So pages 2 and 3 of Exhibit B in front of you, was that used to create the first page, or was it 1090A that was used to create the first page?
The 90A.
Moving to People's Exhibit 1090B, the second page. Were you involved in the preparation of the second page of 1090B, the creation of that document?
All I would have done would have been to email the instructors a blank form.
Okay. The second page, that blank form, is it contained within the second page? I understand there may be additional information, but the blank form that you send to the instructors, is that contained in the second page?
Yes.
Is the second page a document that you provide to the actual instructors that are teaching the class?
Yes.
Is the second page, and again, we're referring to 1090B, is that second page used, to the best of your knowledge, by those instructors with the students?
Yes.
The third page of People's Exhibit 1090B, were you involved in the creation of that document?
This is a document that was provided by our insurance company, and then I provide it to the instructors.
Okay. Do you work with your insurance company related to that particular third page?
Yes.
Okay. Explain how you obtain that from your insurance company.
This is a standard liability release. They put the name of the company in the appropriate spot, and then they would send us 1,000 of them each year.
Okay.
And then the instructors would have the students read and sign it in the class.
That particular document, is that document kept in the normal and ordinary course of your business?
Yes.
I understand that you didn't write that document, you didn't create that document, but is that a document that you use regularly in your motorcycle operating classes?
Yes.
When you provide that third page, the release information, are you acting in the regular and routine course of your business?
Yes.
Do you add any additional information on that waiver, the
No.
third page?
No, the student adds their own personal information. We do not.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, are the procedures in making that document, are they accurate?
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to again move for admission of 1090B. To the extent that additional foundation is required from an additional witness, we can certainly move down that route, and we'll do so.
Mr. King, is there any objection?
Yes, Judge.
All right, please approach. All right, the objection is sustained. Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Judge, we have no further questions at this time. We'd ask that this witness remain under subpoena.
Do you have any cross-examination at this time, Mr. King?
No additional cross-examination. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, the jury does not appear to have any questions. Sir, you're free to go for now, but you may be recalled, okay?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. All right. Call your next witness, please.
Katherine Streep.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your hand for me so that I can administer an oath, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and please spell your first, middle, and last names?
Katherine Elaine Streep. Catherine. You said middle as well?
Yes, please.
ELAINESTREIB, as in boy.
Ms. Tisch-McGuire, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Streeb.
Hi.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes, I was.
Did that go into the early morning of July 20th, 2012?
Yes, it did.
How old were you at that time?
I was 16.
What do you remember about the day of July 19th?
It was a normal day. My family had gotten home from vacation, or 3 days before about, and I had gone to go get Qdoba with my mom when my friend Katie called me and asked me if I wanted to go to the Batman showing at midnight.
And what is your friend Katie's full name?
Katherine Streep.
Did you and Miss Senical go to the movies that night?
Yes, we did.
What time did you get to the movie theater?
We went to the movie theater and bought our tickets about 8, and then we went back and hung out for a couple hours, and then went back to the movie theater about 10:30ish.
What'd you do when you got to the movie theater?
We grabbed some food, some popcorn, and some sodas, and we went and sat down. We wanted to make sure we were there early because we knew that it was going to fill up fast because Batman was pretty popular.
What theater did you go into?
Theater 9.
What did you and Miss Senical do while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
We were just sitting there texting. Like, my friend Kellen said that he wanted to come, but he wasn't sure if he could get a seat, but there are a few open left in the theater. Besides that, we were just hanging out, waiting for it to start.
Where did you find seats in the theater that night?
It was actually towards the top of the theater, like 5 or 6 rows from the top and a few rows in.
What happened during the movie that night?
We were watching the movie, and it was like 15 minutes into the movie, and then we saw like a canister fly towards the left-hand side of the room if I'm facing the screen.
So where did that canister start from if you're facing the movie theater screen?
If I'm facing the screen, then it started at the right-hand corner and flew across the...
What do you remember happening in the theater after you saw that canister?
There was a lot of popping, and I was really confused. I thought it was someone like setting off fireworks or something, because it was like you could smell a lot of smoke, and the sound was really loud. And then someone behind me kind of like yelled out, "It's like, everybody get down!" And so I got down between this couple to my left and Katie to my right, and I tried to get down as fast as possible, but there wasn't a whole lot of room, and so I wanted to make sure that I protect my head, so I was like face down, and like my back was still kind of like up in the air a little bit.
So how far ahead was like your backside up in the air?
It was pretty far. It was pretty cramped. Like, Katie was like flat on the floor, and I was squished in between the other people, so I was on my knees with my head down.
What do you recall happening after you got down?
It didn't seem like it was real. I kind of figured out what was happening because there was someone was like yelling. It's like there was like a shooter in the theater, and then the man next to me started calling 911, and he was like, "There's someone in the theater. They're shooting." It's like
Objection to hearsay, Your Honor.
Justine.
After that man next to you made the 911 call, what else do you remember in the theater that night?
I tried to thank him for calling 911, and then I got shot.
So tell the jury about what happened when you got shot.
I just kind of screamed. I felt really bad because I just screamed in this man's ears as he's on the phone. And then I got really scared because I figured out, I knew I got shot somewhere on my lower back. And I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to walk or anything, because you hear horror stories about being shot like that. And I did marching band all through high school, so it was really important for me to be able to march in my senior year, and it was...
Ask your next question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. After you got shot, what did you feel? Did you feel any physical pain at that moment?
Yeah.
Describe for the jury what it felt like.
At first it kind of felt like a bee sting, but then it slowly got a lot hotter, and then it started to hurt a lot more, and it was not fun.
What'd you do after you got shot?
I kind of sat there for a while trying to figure out if I could move, and then someone said that there was an exit in the back of the theater, and I looked up, and the people to my left down the row were moving, but the people next to me, I tried to get them to move, and they weren't, so I had to turn around and crawl up a couple rows.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second. Could you hear anything in the theater during this time?
Yeah.
What could you hear?
I was sitting there, and you could hear bullets flying over the seats, and you could hear people like screaming out, and they were calling out there like, someone help me, or someone else would say like, I'm not leaving you, and they'd be like calling family members' names, or like,
Could you hear gunshots?
yes.
Okay. At what point in time did the gunshots ever stop that you remember hearing in the theater?
It felt like they lasted a lot longer than they did, but it really didn't last that long, and all of a sudden it was like everything was over, and there were people like rushing out of the theater. There was still a lot of smoke, so it's like you could hear people like coughing.
Where were you in the theater when you remember that stopping, or where you remember not hearing any more gunshots?
I was still hunkered down behind the seats.
And that's when you don't remember hearing gunshots after that. Did
I'm
you
sorry, I'm sorry. We need a verbal answer to the question. I didn't hear the answer to the question.
I think you were too far away from the microphone and they
Oh.
didn't pick up that answer.
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Did you at any time in the theater see a shooter?
No, I did not.
So the only thing you remember seeing is that canister flying across
Yes.
the theater, and hearing the bullets was past
Yes.
your ears. So how did you get out of the theater?
I had to turn around. Katie had left at that point, and I turned around, crawled up a couple rows, and I was able to stand up and go out of the back theater, and it was the back left. And I went out, and that's when Katie found me, and she was like, come on, we gotta leave.
And hearsay.
Sustained.
Sorry, Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1169.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Streep, do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Did you meet with me and draw on that document where you recall you and Ms. Senecal sitting
Yes, I did.
in the theater? Does it fairly and accurately represent what you remember from the theater from July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I'd move for the admission of that exhibit.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
There is not, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, P-TR-1169 is admitted and may be published.
Thank you. If I could please have that exhibit. All right, now there's a mouse in front of you, Ms. Senecal. I'm going to see if it's working at this.
Streep.
Streep, sorry. Just apologize. Catherine and Catherine. All right, okay. Could you show for the jury where you were seated in the theater on your diagram?
I was seated right about here next to Katie, the CS.
Right, so which one's you and which one's Katie?
I'm right here, and then Katie is to my left.
All right, could you please describe on that diagram where you saw that canister go across the theater?
I saw it start from the right-hand corner of the theater and fly that way, or the left-hand corner on this, and fly this direction.
All right, could you please describe for the jury how you were able to exit the theater?
I was down here, and I was able to crawl out of these seats, up a couple rows, and I stood up, went across here, and came out of this exit here.
What happened when you and Miss Senecal got out of the theater?
She was trying to rush me down the stairs. She was like, hurry, Katie, we got to get out of here. And I told her, I was like,
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
And to be clear for the jury, when you got out of this top exit, that top exit that you described for the jury, is there a balcony area at the top of that
yes,
area?
there was. There was an area, it was a few feet wide, and then the stairs went down from there.
So without telling the jury about anything that you said or Miss Senecal said, what happened as you went down the stairs?
I wasn't able to go very far because I hurt so much, and I reached behind my back and showed Katie my hand, and it was covered in blood, and she was
So, and then without saying anything she said, just so you noticed your hands were covered.
yeah,
in
my
blood.
hands were covered, and she kind of freaked out a little bit, and her and some unknown person helped me down the stairs and out of the building.
What were you able to get to a hospital that night?
Yes, I was.
Get there.
I was able to get out of the theater, and then I grabbed onto a light pole or a sign pole, and I told Katie to go get the car, and she ran and got the car, and then she pulled up, and she drove me to Aurora Medical Center.
What did you learn about your injuries when you were at the hospital?
I learned that it was a through-and-through gunshot wound. It started at high on my left buttocks cheek went to my tailbone, bounced off of that, and went out my right buttocks cheek.
All right. What did the doctors tell you about the path of that bullet?
They said it was really long and that it was a centimeter from hitting my colon and my uterus.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2049 and 2050.
Yes.
I have no objection to the admission of these exhibits, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, P-TR-2049 and 2050 are admitted and may be published.
Could I please have 2049? Ms. Streep, could you please describe for the jury who the picture of this is?
That is myself.
All right, is this you on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it is.
Could I please have 2050? All right, and what does this picture describe? If you could use that little arrow again on your mouse to show for the jury where your injury was.
This is my back, and then this would be down my leg, and this was the entrance wound on my left-hand side.
Right? And then the exit wound went all the way over to your right.
Mm-hmm.
No further questions at this time. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. King, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not, thank you.
All right. And the jury does not appear to have any questions. May Ms. Streep be released from her subpoena?
Please, Your Honor.
Is
Without
ready?
objection.
All right, thank you. Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
There are people called Dan Jensen, the stand.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir, I do. Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Yes, my name is Daniel Michael Jensen, D-A-N-I-E-L, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, J-E-N-S-E-N.
Mr. Brockler, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you please tell us what you do for a living?
Currently, I work for a liquor distributor, RNDC.
I didn't hear that
Oh, I
either.
apologize. Currently, I work for a liquor distributor. RNDC is the name of that company.
Now, back on July 19th, 20th of 2012, are you still working for that same employer?
No, sir.
Who are you working for?
I was working for Cinemark, which is Century 16 movie theater.
Were you an employee of Cinemark and at the theater at the time the events that we're here to talk about took place?
Yes, sir.
How long total had you been employed by Cinemark?
I had started for Cinemark in September of 2010.
Back on July the 19th, 20th of 2012, did you have a special title or assignment?
Yeah, I was an assistant manager at the time, and that evening I was the floor manager.
What is a floor manager?
The floor manager is in charge of all the employees that are on floor, and what those employees do is they, clean up trash after the movies are over, clean up the hallways, bathrooms, that sort of thing. So my job was to monitor them, help them out if they needed help, run their breaks, that sort of thing.
In terms of a chain of command, were there other managers like you on duty at that time?
There were other assistant managers responsible for other things working at that time.
And who was above you to report any issues to?
My general manager was working at that time. His name is Nathan Crowdis.
Now, would you be able to help us understand the layout of the theater as it existed back on July the 19th and 20th of 2012?
Yeah, absolutely.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Hey, sir, I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 2051, 2052, 2053, 2103, 2057, 2055, 2056, 2060, 2061, and 2062. Would you take a look at those, please? And when you're done reviewing them, would you look up and let me know you're done?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Do you recognize what's contained in all those photos?
Yes, I do.
Now, do those, by the way, what is it? What's contained in? And I don't want you to go through each individual one at the moment, but what are those pictures of?
The movie theater outside and inside as well.
Now, each of those photographs, do they capture sort of a different aspect or angle of the theater that will help us tell the story of what took place that night?
That's correct, yes.
Each of those exhibits, do they fairly and accurately capture the layout of the theater and what it looked like back on July the 19th and 20th of 2012?
Yes, sir.
Now, the outside photos I've noticed look like they were taken in the daytime. Is that fair?
Yes, sir, that's fair.
Other than that, do those photos fairly portray the outside of the theater and how the parking lot is sort of laid out in different aspects?
Yes, sir.
All right, at this time, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
I'm going to move for the admission of, sorry. Can I just say all the exhibits into evidence, Your Honor? Do you want me to go through each number?
You can just say all the exhibits that you submitted the witness into evidence.
All the exhibits that I submitted to the witness into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-2051, 2052, 2053, 2103, 2057, 2055, 2056, 2060, 2061, and 2062 are admitted and may be published.
Here's what I'd like to do, sir. I want to talk us through each of those photographs, and for the ones that are on the outside of the theater, I'd like to intersperse those with an already admitted exhibit of People's 4740, probably, and have you tell us how that picture relates to the overall satellite photo. So let's, hang on one sec, let's start there. With the court's permission, I'd like to proceed that way and to just intermittently republish 4740 to help describe where all this fits in.
That's fine.
Can you put up 4740 for me? All right, this has previously been admitted as People's 4740. Do you recognize this as the theater we're about to talk about?
Yes, sir.
All right, now with this up on the screen, take a look at the first picture down there. Tell us what exhibit number it is and tell us what it's a picture of.
It is 2051
Ma'am, would you please publish 2051 for us?
and, yes,
All right, what is this?
that's the front entrance of the movie theater.
Now, if you're going to go see a movie back on July the 19th and 20th of 2012, in your experience, is there any other lawful way to get into that theater other than through the front here?
No, sir, those are the only entrance doors.
All right, ma'am, would you put up 4740 again? Can you use our stick, please, and just stand up if you would, and just indicate, we're not going to need the microphone for this, just indicate where that is. Okay, thank you. And you have indicated with the stick, for the record, go ahead, sir, and have a seat. And you have indicated kind of the upper left quadrant of that building as it's towards the upper top of the picture. All right, tell us about the next photograph in order.
Be 2052 and that would be the right front of the movie theater.
Now, so that when you say right front, and thank you for publishing 2052, ma'am, we can see it's just to the right. What is that entrance/exit, that opening there that we see?
Yes, those are glass exit doors. Those are exit only. You can't enter through those doors.
What theaters would funnel an exit out through that?
At that time, it would have been any of the auditoriums on that side, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay, thank you. Can we get 20, what's the next one, sir?
2053.
2053, thank you. Again, this is the other side of that entrance. Do we see a mirror image entrance on there?
That's correct.
And it seems like it's blocked by a tree, but does that serve the same purpose?
Absolutely.
Different theaters are serviced by that?
Correct.
Which ones would those be?
That would have been 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay. What's the next picture you have, sir?
2103.
Can we get 2103, ma'am? All right, this particular picture right here, and I think we're getting the feel of it here. Can you go back to 4740? And sir, would you stand up with the high-speed stick and show us which corner of the building that angle is taken from?
Yes.
Or of? Thank you. And you're indicating the very tippy-top tip of that building at the top of Exhibit 4740. Thank you, sir. The next photograph that you have there, sir, is that the interior portion of the theater?
2057, and yes.
Without publishing that first, let me approach, if I could, Your Honor, with 1212.
Yes.
Take a look at that Exhibit 1212. What does that appear to you to be?
It would be a overhead architectural type layout of the building.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of how that theater was laid out back on July the 19th and 20th of 2012?
That's correct.
Would it also help us to understand how these pictures fit into the story that we're going to talk
Judge,
about?
I'm going to object to relevance.
The question was, would it help us to understand how the pictures fit into the story that we're going to talk about? So the objection as to that question is overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to move for the admission of 1212 into evidence, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Spengler, do you object to the admission of P-DR-1212?
I do. Can we approach?
Yes. Can I see that, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Exhibit P-TR, Mr. Brockler.
Thank you. Could you grab 1212 there? And can I have 1 second, Your Honor, if we were going to publish it?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Having taken into consideration the conversation we had at the bench, Your Honor, at this point, could I publish this version of 1212 to the jury?
If it's consistent with what we talked about here, yes.
I believe it is.
Okay, you may.
And just for the record, Your Honor, would the court agree that that is consistent with what we discussed at the bench?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, do us a favor, and if you could talk to us about what we're looking at here.
Again, it's just kind of a overhead view of the entire theater. The numbers there represent the auditoriums. That's pretty much it.
Do me a favor. Would you grab the microphone that we have in, there it is. Yep. Yes, sir. You have to flick up on that thing. Huh? I like the stick. Can you turn that on and grab the stick? And if you would, first point out to the jury, and it may be obvious, but let's do this anyway. Point out the front of the theater that we looked at with those prior exhibits.
Okay, so this would be the front entrance right here.
Okay, we're going to end up talking about theaters number 9 and theaters number 8. Would you indicate for the jury where that is on 1212, please?
Yeah, so this would be auditorium 8 right here, and this would be auditorium 9 right here.
Now, for the record, and I know you've pointed to it, but so that it's taken down in words, you've indicated 2 rectangular theaters that are almost directly behind the front entrance through the lobby area. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's correct. This is the back of the building. So, again, entrance here, this is a lobby, 8 and 9.
And behind that wall there for 8 and 9, that's on the very top of People's 1212, what's back there?
Exit right here, that would take you, outside of that auditorium. Same with 8. There's an exit right here that would take you outside of that auditorium.
Okay, and while you're standing there, ma'am, would you put up 4740 real quick just to make sure? Could you point to us that back area that we just talked about and where the exit from theater number 9 would be?
Sure, so 9 would be about half of, right here. And then that exit would kind of be right in there, right in this area.
And you have pointed to something that looks like it is, like if you went from the bottom middle of the picture up to an outcropping of something sticking out of the back of the building.
Correct. So this would be a trash compactor right here.
Okay.
And then, again, just beyond that trash compactor is where that exit is.
While you're standing there, Your Honor, may I grab the exhibits that have been admitted?
Yes.
All right, can we have People's Exhibit 2057 published, please? Describe first what this area is, and then I'm going to put back 1212 and just have you indicate where that is.
Okay, so this would be the lobby. So the entryway would be, just directly in front of this, and then this is the theater lobby here. This would be the concession stand. And then you can actually see right here the entrance to Theater 9.
2 things. When you indicated the entrance to the building, you pointed to the left of the screen. Is that fair?
That's fair, yeah.
And when you indicated the entrance to Theater 9, you pointed to the right darkened area on the right side of this picture.
That's correct, right here.
All right, thank you. Can we get Exhibit 2056, please? All right, what are we looking at here? It looks similar, but a little bit different. What's different?
Correct, just a little different angle here, but this would be the box office where you would purchase tickets. Typically these ropes would be set up for lines for people to wait in line and purchase tickets. Directly in front of you here you have the entryway to Auditorium 9, and again, concession stand.
Could we get to 2055, please? Now, again, similar but a little bit different angle. What are we looking at here?
Correct, so again, just the box office here where you would purchase the tickets.
Where would someone go if they were going to use their Fandango purchased phone thingy?
Yeah, so tickets purchased in advance can be redeemed at the box office or typically right around this area. We would have this apparatus set up with a door person there tearing those tickets. So because you purchase your tickets in advance, you don't need to wait in line to purchase tickets up here. So you could take that directly to the door person, to this apparatus here, this computer, redeem your tickets, the tickets would print, and then they would let you through.
So that we're clear for the record too, when you say apparatus, you pointed to what looks to be like a little blue box on the lower left-handish corner of Exhibit 2055?
That's correct right here, yep.
Now look, we had previously seen a video of different people coming to the counter and then trying to access what was described as the Fandango ticket booth thing. Are there cameras visible in People's 2055 that would be the ones that captured that video?
I haven't seen the video, but I can tell you that there are cameras right here, here, and then not visible in this picture because of this little paper advertisement. There's another camera right here.
And where you've said here, here, and here, you've indicated 3 white things that are sticking down from the ceiling of that ticket booth?
Correct, with kind of a glass, smoky colored, thing protecting that camera.
Okay, thank you. Could we get 2060, please? All right, what are we looking at here?
So again, kind of the box office would have been right here, that previous picture that we just saw. This is just further down, concession stand here on the left, and then this doorway right here is the Theater 9 entrance.
Now we have seen some video of people in the concession stand area. Are there cameras around there that could capture such video?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you indicate for the jury where that is?
Correct. So there's the exact same type of cameras and setup as we saw in the previous picture. One here, one here, and one here, and then also another camera right here.
And when you've said right here, right here, right here, and right here, you have indicated these, again, white, I guess, smoky glass objects that are sticking down from the ceiling about 2/3 of the way from the bottom of the picture. Is that fair?
Yes.
Can we please have 2061, ma'am? All right, what's this now?
So this is the entrance to Theater 9. You can see it is labeled right there as well as on this marquee up here.
To be clear, these items that are off here to the left, that looks like some sort of industrial fan and some of these other things, were those there the night of July the 19th, morning of July 20th?
No, I mean, like, these are children's seats, so they would have been here, in the theater in general. It looks like they've been moved to prop this door open for whatever reason, but yeah, trash can, kid seats, top of that trash can. That's what this is, broom and dustpan. This is a rope to set up lines. But yes, this fan that you mentioned, never seen it until this picture.
Okay, and with the court's permission, could I have the witness approach the exhibit and just reorient us from this picture to this exhibit?
Yes.
Sir, could you approach this? And first off, if you would, take a look at it. And let me ask you, is this a fair and accurate representation of how Theater Number 9 looked back on the 19th and 20th of July 2012?
And sir, if I could have you stand to the side.
Over here,
Side.
yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So yes, this is a fairly accurate representation.
Other than that, there would have been walls here
Yes, sir.
that we removed.
Yes.
Okay. Can you look at this exhibit number 2061 and see those doors you talked to us about there? Where are they? What do they feed into here on this model?
Okay, so for picture purposes, the door would have been on the back side of this model. That door would then take you to a hallway. That hallway is stashed under this model, so right here, and also right here. That hallway would then take you to two other hallways, and represented here and over here as well. That would then allow you to be in this general area, and then you could pick your seats.
With the court's permission, I'd like to rotate this exhibit so they can see the back of it. Oh boy. Sir, come on over here if you would. Can you take a look on the back there? I didn't have you do that before. Does that look like what the entrance would look like if there were walls and stuff?
Again, the entryway for that would be, you know, I guess this is about right. This is a little wider.
Would you
but
just step to the side for these folks
Yeah.
here and use your stick if you could? And
Sure.
I couldn't make it harder. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, so in this general area is where those doors would be located. Obviously, this is much wider, but
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead and head back towards there. And take a look at, if we could, ma'am, 2062. What is this now?
So this is looking down the hallway. So if we were moved back to the left here, would be where auditorium 9 is. So this is looking down further through that hallway. 16 is here. This right here, you can see the top marquee for theater 10, restrooms obviously. This is a hallway as well. This would take you to 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
If we continued down this hallway that we see in front of us and then took a right turn, would we end up going out those glass doors that you described on the right side of the entrance earlier?
Correct. So if you took a right turn here, to the left would be theater 14. You can actually kind of see it right here. A little further down that hallway would be theater 15, and then right there at the end of that hallway would be those glass doors.
And can we get 1212, ma'am? Take a look at 1212 again, and if you could, those pictures that we looked at of the lobby and the ticketing area and the special cameras and all that stuff, tell the jury where that is on this exhibit.
Okay, so this right here would have been the box office. Again, this is the lobby. The concession stand would be in this area. As you walk through here, right about here would be the entrance of auditorium number 9. And then the very last picture that we saw was an angle viewing down this hallway. And those glass doors that you mentioned at the end of that would be right here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir. Would you go ahead and take a seat, and we can take that. Now, if you could, sir, I want to ask you some specific questions about that evening. It was, as we've heard from a ton of people, it was the premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. Had you ever worked a premiere before?
Yes, I have.
How many do you think you've worked in your time leading up to that and since?
Objection, relevance.
What's the relevance?
It's to put into perspective the different things that he observed and the steps that they took to get people in.
All right, overruled.
Sir, how many do you think you've worked?
It would be countless, honestly. Again, basically every Thursday night there would be a premiere of some sort of movie. So again, every week, essentially, that I worked there.
Are these types movies, and when I say these types, I mean like superhero movies, are they bigger than others or about the same? Was this one anticipated to be bigger or smaller?
Yeah, I would say that this one was anticipated to be larger.
Okay, in terms of what I say you like you're the person making these decisions, in terms of what the theater did to account for the volume of people it thought were coming, how many theaters did you designate to play this premiere?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so initially, if memory serves, we scheduled 2 shows. We had a 12:01 and a 12:05. And because of the way that the system works, we could essentially put a Dark Knight in every single one of these auditoriums if we needed to. That night in particular, we ended up having that movie in 5 auditoriums.
Do me a favor and I'm sorry, can you put 1212 back up, just so we know? There it is. Tell us what numbers of theaters you put The Dark Knight in that night.
Auditorium 1, 8, 9, 10, and 16.
Was there an order at which they were scheduled to start?
Yes, so Theater 8 would have been a 12:01 showing. Theater 9 would have been a 12:05 showing. And then from there, we then added shows, the more popular it got. So then at that point, we added a 12:10 in Theater 1, a 12:15 in Theater 16.
No, interject a relevance objection.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
And I believe it was on the 5th one, it would have been a 12:20, which was in Theater number 10.
Now, are those added after the different ones sell out? Is that how they become available?
Typically, that's how it is done, but like you said, with the anticipation of it being a little larger, we kind of, added probably more shows that we needed. We had some of those auditoriums not very full, but, again, we thought we were going to be fairly busy, so we had a lot of showtimes.
Compared to
Your Honor,
the...
excuse me, may we approach briefly?
Yes.
Hey, sir, we were talking about the different times that the theaters were starting, and you seem to be looking down, and I know that you have that Exhibit 1212 in front of you. Are you reading off of something else?
No, it's just Exhibit 1212.
Is looking at the exhibit in the different theaters helping you to understand the times that were scheduled to start?
Yeah, it's just easier to look at it than it is to try to picture it in my brain.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
In this case, on this particular night of the 19th going into the morning of the 20th, this 12:05 showing for Theater 9, how would you describe how full Theater 9 was compared to the others that were scheduled to play this movie?
Theater 9 would have been about sold out. We had about 400 seats in there, give or take. So there would have been, the way that it works, we don't completely sell it down to 0. We leave roughly 10% of the seats open. So I think it's fair to say there'd be about 360 people in there.
Based on your experience, the tickets are sold for specific theaters?
That's correct.
Look, once someone goes to the ticket taker person, what steps are taken to make sure that a person only goes to the theater they're designated to, as opposed to they could pretty much go to any theater they wanted?
Generally speaking, that's not a huge problem, but the ticket number, or excuse me, the auditorium number is on the ticket. As we showed in some of those previous pictures, there are marquees as well as a sticker essentially above the auditorium. So it's pretty obvious, but in the event that someone can't find it, we could walk them over there if needed, but it's not typically an issue.
It's sort of what I was asking, but that just highlights how bad my question was.
Okay.
All right. Somebody wants to go to theater number 9, but their ticket says theater number 8. They give it to the ticket taker person. They get past them. What prevents them from saying, I'm going to 9 anyway?
Objection to the form of the question calls for speculation.
Overruled. Overruled as to both.
Go ahead, sir.
We try to keep an eye out just for customer service, right, to make sure that that person does go to the right auditorium. But technically nothing would really prevent them from going to the wrong auditorium. So if they purchase a ticket, for auditorium 8, they could have ended up a 9.
Let's talk about not only in your experience, but on this particular evening, for a premiere, especially one that starts at midnight, what percentage of the attendees, is that the title you give them? People that come to watch the movie, or?
Yeah, just customers.
Customers. What percentage of the customers tend to be children?
Objection, Your Honor. 403, 401.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may I approach on that?
Yes. All right, the objection is sustained. Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, we displayed a bunch of pictures before, And in those pictures, there are different times than you have just described posted on those little digital movie marquee things for each theater. Can you explain that?
Yeah, and the pictures, the times were different because I assume those pictures were taken after the events of that evening. So those marquees above there are essentially connected to a computer. So the scheduling in that computer would push out those, labels, those times out to those marquees automatically the next day. So the times that you see there were the scheduled times for the day the picture was taken.
Okay, thank you. One other question I failed to ask you, and I'm not going to make you get up in the interest of time to do this. We have heard a lot of people describe this lower, can I move this exhibit?
Yes, you may.
This lower right-hand corner exit. Do you see what I'm pointing to here?
Yes.
On exhibit 1087 as an emergency exit. Is it an emergency exit?
No, that's not what it is. It's just a regular exit. It's just a courtesy exit for customers. There's no alarms on there. There's no posting that says, alarm will sound when exit. That's not what it's for. It's just an exit.
Does the door, is it designed to allow people to go in and out?
It is exit only, so once you exit out of that door, it closes automatically and latches, and there's no way to open it from the outside.
Is there even a handle on the other side?
No.
Okay, and this just dumps you out into the back of the theater where there's some parking spaces?
That's correct.
Thank you. I want to take you now to July the 19th, 2012, when you were on duty as the floor manager. You've already described sort of the flow of people and that it was, would you say it was pretty busy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk us through what you were doing when you first realized something unusual was taking place in the theater.
Well, at that time, I was in the office. I was in the manager's office, kind of actually packing up, getting ready to go. And then at that point, another manager had walked into the office. She was on her cell phone, and she said that someone's...
Counter hearsay confrontation.
Sustain, that's the hearsay. Rule 802.
So there's going to be a series of questions I ask you that you're going to be thinking, hey, somebody told me something. Just tell us somebody told you something without telling us the details, and then I'll ask you what you did in response. Is that fair?
Okay.
All right. So who were you talking to?
I was talking to another assistant manager. Her name was Brooke Graves.
Now, they said something to you, and what did you do as a result of what they told you?
I exited the office.
And where'd you go?
Right outside the office, and the office is that picture, one of those pictures that you showed was, I might have it.
May I approach?
Yes, you may.
Pick the one out that's the one that's going to help you describe what you're talking about.
So it'd be 2062.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so down that hallway, if you were to take a right, on the right side of that hallway is where the office is. So I exited the office and was standing right outside. Directly across from me is the employee break room. To the left is Theater 14. To the right is Theater 15. Anyway, so I exited the office, and at that point I saw some employees standing around in the hallway.
And then what?
At that point, people started coming out of Theater 15, and those people, as we discussed earlier, there's glass exit doors right next to 15. Those people were not heading that way. They were actually heading back towards, this picture, towards the lobby, towards the box office.
Is that weird?
No, it's not uncommon, right? If you're going to exit if something's happening, I think typically people's thought process is to go to the box office where they know there's people and kind of figure out what's going on.
So then what happened?
So at that point, I stopped those people from coming down the hallway because I knew that I had been told or, whatnot, that something was happening in Theater 9. So the problem is if they walk up to the box office, they would be walking past Theater 9, which we obviously didn't want. So I then directed those people out those glass exit doors.
After you start directing those people out into the parking lot, what happens?
At that point, I'm going to, run over to 9, and then I see, we had a dark night in auditorium number 10, which You can actually see that auditorium in this picture. It is right behind the women's restroom there. People started to come out of that auditorium, and same situation. They wanted to come towards the box office.
Towards where this picture's taken?
Towards where the picture is taken, correct. So I did the same thing there. I directed all those people to those glass exit doors down that hallway.
Now, you say, and I started making my way towards Theater 9, like, given the information you had, that made any sense. Why were you doing that?
To investigate, I guess. I mean, right, I work there. I was curious.
Okay. So you stop the people from 10 going, you direct them again. What's next?
So at that point, I turned around from directing the people to head, towards 9, and I see people and smoke pouring out of the auditorium. And at that point, there was at least 3 police officers standing there.
Is it pouring out of that door that's in People's Exhibit 26? Which one is that?
Yeah, 2061.
2061. Is this the door that smoke's coming out of?
That's correct.
And what else is coming out of that door?
People.
And how are they coming out?
Quickly?
I'm going to interject with an objection. This is cumulative to a prior testimony of various first responders.
Overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
About to the left there, you see there's doors. That leads to the kitchen of the concession stand. So that's a little behind that is where the police officers were standing. And again, coming out of that door was the smoke and the customers.
Okay. Was there one specific individual that you remember or that you helped more than another?
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy, right? And I see this gentleman kind of stumble out, so he's not running like everybody else. And he actually kind of stumbles into those doors.
Object with an objection. Can I reapproach?
Yes. All right, the objection is overruled, but you must proceed with, consistent with my instructions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First off, do us a favor. Would you describe the characteristics of this person? What did he look like?
A little under 6 foot, maybe, African-American gentleman, kind of heavy set.
And what did his injuries appear to you to be that you helped him with?
Well, at the point when he came out of the auditorium, I honestly didn't think he was injured. The way that he was stumbling around, I thought he was drunk. So I kind of thought, like, right, that's all we need right now is a drunk guy about to get trampled by all these people coming out. So I was about to approach him, but then he actually got himself up off of the wall and started to walk back out. So I said, okay, now he's going to be in the clear and exit. He then kind of stumbled over to the concession stand area and stopped again. So at this point, I approached him. I realized he needed some assistance. So I go up to him. I actually, put my hand on him. I said, "Sir, are you okay?" At that point, he looked over at me and he had blood coming from his mouth and a wound in his shoulder where I had touched him. And I knew that because I had blood on my hand at that point. So as I told you before, there was cops standing right outside of Auditorium 9, and I started yelling at them like, hey, this guy needs help, this guy needs help. And a cop then did come over at that point and escort the gentleman out of the front door.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Sir, I should ask you this. During the time that all this stuff is happening, after you realize something's going on in Theater 9, are there alarms in the theater that have been activated?
Yes.
What do they look and sound like?
They're flashing white, and I mean, just kind of a siren, going off inside. It was a constant sound, if I remember correctly.
It's not an intermittent kind of siren like a intermittent siren?
I guess it's the first and only time I've heard that, so I can't tell you specifically. I don't remember if it was a constant sound, or an intermittent sound. I unfortunately don't remember.
And once it was it on through pretty much your entire time in the building?
Yes, for the rest of the time that I was in the building, those lights were flashing and that alarm was going off.
I don't have anything further for this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spengler, do you have any cross-examination?
No, I don't.
All right, and the jury does not, well, maybe the jury has a question, no? There may be a question. If you would give us a moment, please. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Mr. Jensen, the jury has submitted some questions that, based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law, I have found are appropriate. The first question is, where does the exit at the rear of theater number 9 let out? Was it in the pictures?
Yes, it was in the pictures. It just leads out to the back or the rear of the entire complex, out to a sidewalk, and a parking lot.
The next question is, was there anyone in the projection room the night of the shooting?
While it was happening, I'm not sure. I know that at one point I was in the projection room that night.
The next question is, who turned the lights on in the theater and when?
I don't know who turned the lights on. I will say that I attempted to go turn them on upstairs, but they had already been turned on at that point. But I don't know, who turned them on.
The next question is, the 3 police officers that you said were standing in the concession area, was it standard practice to have them there?
I would say, number one, I don't really make the security scheduling or decisions or hire those guys. I would also say that it wasn't typically necessary. Thursday night premieres, if you will, were normally for like...
Well, hold on. I think you've answered the question.
Okay, all right.
All right.
My apologies.
That's okay. The next question is, if you knew of a problem in number 9, why did they not? And you can only answer this question if you know. You cannot speculate about what they may have known.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
If you knew of a problem in number 9, why did they not?
I don't know who they is.
All right. Any follow-up questions? Mr. Brockler?
If I could, Your Honor. Sir, just because I want to clarify some of the things I think these questions got to, can I ask you, the time that you're in the booth, you're not in the booth when whatever took place in the theater took place in the theater. Is that fair?
Correct. I was not up there at that time.
And once a movie gets underway and it gets started, can that booth be left unattended while the movie just rolls through the rest of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all automated. So there's essentially a server that connects to a computer to each auditorium. And then, there's essentially a clock hooked up to it, and they automatically start. So to have a person up there on duty at all times is not necessary.
And the time that you were in the booth, was it before or after the events that took place in Theater 9?
It was after, I guess the tail end of during and after.
Okay, and you didn't see anything of the shooting and all that other stuff?
I didn't see, I saw people, but...
Relevance 403.
Sustained. So the question is, you didn't see the shooting?
Correct. I did not see the shooting itself, yes.
When you talked about trying to turn the lights on in the theater, was that before or after what you've described with the gentleman who had the blood on his back and spitting up the blood?
That was after.
Okay. The other question had to do with the 3 officers that were there. Do you normally have armed security there for these premieres at the theater?
Again, typically no. It's just hasn't really been necessary.
So when you describe these 3 individuals that were there that you then turned the hurt guy over to, had they been there before the incident that took place in Theater 9?
They were first responders, so I'm assuming someone obviously put a phone call out to the police. And so those were people responding to that call.
Okay, so they're not just standing around the lobby?
They weren't just there, no.
Okay, nothing further on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spengler, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, I don't.
May this witness be released from his subpoena, Mr. Brockler?
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No.
All right, sir, thank you. All right, members of the jury, it's about 17 minutes after 5, and I very much appreciate your patience. I know we went over a little bit. Please keep in mind that all the advisements that I have been giving you throughout the trial apply. Please make sure you follow each and every one of them. I know I've given them to you about 157 times. No, not quite that many, but quite a few times. So I'm just going to remind you of how important they are. So make sure you follow all of them tonight, okay? I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:15. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Please be seated, everyone. Let me follow up quickly on a couple of things. The last bench conference we had, there was an objection by Ms. Spengler to the questions of the last witness by Mr. Brockler related to the witness helping out an injured individual who was coming out of the theater. And I allowed the question with an instruction, and I didn't state the grounds for my ruling, given that it was past 5 o'clock. So I found that it was relevant under Rule 401 and Rule 402, and that it was admissible under Rule 403 because the probative value of the evidence was not substantially outweighed by any of the concerns that are listed in Rule 403. Yes, there has been testimony about that from possibly from the injured person. At least that's what Mr. Brockler believed, that the injured individual was somebody who testified last week, and certainly the description of the individual and the injuries by the witness are consistent with that belief. But this was testimony now coming from the person, the employee who helped the individual out, and it corroborates the individual's testimony, the injured individual's testimony. And so it goes to credibility, it goes to what happened that night, it goes to what this last witness did after he was informed that something had happened in theater number 9 or was happening in theater number 9. So it was probative of all those things. And I instructed Mr. Brockler not to dwell on it to avoid any concerns of unfair prejudice, and he followed my instruction and did not dwell on it, and the testimony was not graphic. It was brief, and so it was consistent with my instruction. In terms of Exhibit P-TR-1212, I admitted it, but required the prosecution to redact it, and that was at the prosecution's request or agreement to do that. So, Mr. Brockler, please make sure that exhibit is redacted.
Your Honor, I have a copy of the redacted 1212 if I could approach and substitute it with, starting up there.
Show it to Ms.